So I've got Ross Bundy here, who's just going to be speaking to us just about his rugby career from just an early age into where he is now. So Ross, would you just like to introduce yourself and just kind of give a background story of your journey and that?
Where it all began. My name is Ross Bundy. I'm 21. I'm originally from Tilcootry, which is central Scotland, and I'm now currently living in France, playing for Racing Club Narbonne. Basically started off when I was nine at Hillfoots. Just saw it on TV, and my parents for that were just looking for me to do something else apart from playing football a little bit and like golf and stuff like that. They wanted me to do something a bit different. Plus, I was pretty big. Back then, I was pretty big. So done that for like 4 years, and then when I went to high school, I had a lot of friends who were at Stirling County, and they were like, "Oh, maybe you should go along there." So because I wanted to progress a little bit more, I always wanted to be a rugby player after I started. So and then I went and played all the way through the youth section, drew in the under-16 Scottish Cup final, won 2 Scottish Cup finals with them, and just went through the age grade. And then I made my debut for the first team when I was 17. So yeah, it was pretty good there. Like they take it a bit more serious than other clubs, and the teams that you play are really good as well. Plus, a lot of national like selectors and stuff that go and watch the higher profile games. So yeah, and then after that, I stayed at Stirling for till I was 20. But during that time, I played under 18s, but I was just in training camp, and then played under 19s against Romania and France, and then was in the under 20s camp in my first year, just before the World Cup, the Junior World Cup, and then I didn't get into the World Cup squad. But then the year after, I played. I was still playing at Stirling, and played in the Six Nations. Went to Junior World Cup. Played against France in like a training game, and just had the overall experience there. And then after I joined the Super Six, didn't get that much game time, just because of like pros coming down. And then I moved to Darlington on loan for 6 months, and then the coronavirus hit, so everything got stopped. And then during that time, that's when me and my agent got something here in France, and then I moved out here basically after that, and then that's me now, still here now.
Good stuff. So you were just highlighting there just how the standard of rugby and the seriousness at county was something you hadn't experienced compared to the other kind of clubs. What was it about kind of going to Stirling County, not just with maybe the first 15, but just as a club that kind of stood out?
It was just, I don't know, it was weird. Like when I went there, the quality of people that were there, the average was a lot better than being at Hillfoots and all the other clubs that around the area, and the coaches as well were a lot better as well, which was surprising. I was because most of the coaches have the same coaching nowadays, but being at Stirling, they had the coaches were like really full on. Like it wasn't just at Hillfoots, it was all about fun and stuff like that. But at Stirling, it was fun and also take it a bit more serious, which I liked. And everybody there was all wanting the same thing, to always win and get better and all that kind of stuff. I was like that all the way from under 13s, under 14s, under 15s, under 16s, and then under 18s. It was always, every year it got more serious and serious, but not to the serious way, to the point where like every time I went, I was happy to go. We'd done training, we'd done some like video stuff when I got to under 18s, and you worked as a group, and it was the same group all the way through the age grade, and you could see that we bonded over the years. And by the time we hit under 18s, we won 2 trophies in 2 years. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily it was the club's environment of everybody, you want to succeed and train hard and all that kind of stuff, and it shows though when you start winning trophies and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? And everybody enjoyed it. It wasn't like people didn't enjoy it and stuff like that. So yeah.
But what was you mentioned that the kind of under-18s team was quite successful in that. What was, so apart from the kind of culture, the environment that essentially encouraged that, just the players individually, what were they like? Was there any key players that you noticed a significant difference in ability? What were they doing off the pitch? Just like, was it a bunch of just a good team, or was it just good individuals?
Yeah, it was like individually, like even at under 16s and under 18s and stuff like that. So some of the boys were playing at Dollar, like at the school and stuff like that. So they were away doing that. So they were playing rugby like every day of their life. And for people like me, we had like a I can't remember what it's called, a PDP player. So like we would get to go to the gym, we would get to do like some extra skills on a Monday and all that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that you enjoy because it's extra. You get to go and play rugby again. But it's like also helping you at the same time. And everybody done it. It was one of those things like if the boys weren't at Stirling, they'd be training with Dollar, and then the boys who were training at Stirling would always beat Stirling. Yeah. And it was just like that off the pitch was like just doing that, really, just doing extra bits and going to the gym a little bit, not too much. Like they didn't force us or anything like that, but it was a good thing to do from a young age, just to get experience, really, because when you go higher up, it becomes more essential. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So how did you find that transition from kind of under 18s to kind of senior rugby?
Yeah, like when I remember when I first I was 17, yeah. So like I was still playing under 18s at the same time, and like one week I was playing for the first, and then the next week I was playing in the under 18s, and the physicality was massive, like massively different, just based on people. The people that I was playing against, like one week I was playing against some like 18-year-old kid who probably weighed 80 kilos, and the next week I was playing against Anton Bresler, who was weighing 115, 120 kilo man, like full grown professional, and I was like a 17-year-old, 89 kilo boy, which was like but it doesn't matter so much about size anymore. But at that time I was like, oh my god, this is such a big step up. But it's how you just get on with it. You just need to do what you've done with playing the youth rugby, but bring it into the senior rugby, but also learn as well. Like I learned so much just from one game. Every game from the ages of 18 to 20. Even now I still learn every day, like with like playing and training. And yeah, it's just about a learning curve, really. But it's the physicality side that I saw the most.
Yeah. So like, what would you say to kind of like younger players or players that are kind of in your position? I just think it's just all about just putting on the weight, just going to the gym. Like there's no doubt, and because there's no doubt in rugby, like you need good strength and conditioning is important, but just the kind of skill development behind it. How important is that?
Yeah, like there's only so much weight you can lift, and there's only so much benefits that you're going to get from lifting weight. Like once you've done it for a while, that's it. Like I remember, like I really properly I didn't start the gym like properly until I was like 20. So before that I'd done bits and bobs, and I wouldn't really care about it so much. And I was one of those people that was a bit lighter, but was more agile on the feet, and like rugby's becoming more about that, the quicker game, they're not so worried about the weights anymore. But when you get to the highest level, you do need to start being more serious about it. Like now I take more care with my weights than I do with my skills, but I also try to maintain the skills because I still want to be bigger but also be able to move still.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would just say focus on the basics, like all the way the basics, and then after that, if you're doing well and you're going places, then yeah, start focusing a bit more on the gym and stuff like that. But I wouldn't start like, there's no point in starting too young. Like I know people who started when they're 16 and they were 16 to 18, they were lifting like 200 kilos, but now they don't even play rugby anymore because they just get lost because they can't keep up with the skills and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I never would say to someone focus on the gym, like, unless you're like for example, I have a friend who is 23 and he's training with like a national team, like a lower league one, and stuff like that. He's pretty slim. I said to him, I was like, you're going to need to bulk up because the teams that you're going to play are going to have big forwards and they're just going to realise that you're a small 10, so they're going to run at you every day.
Yeah.
And he's doing it, and he's realising that he should have done it earlier, but that's just an example of a position that where you should have. When you get to a certain level, you're going to see the differences if you do weights.
And just talking about differences as well, like how much do you think an emphasis should be put on skill development, one-on-one time, and because you might not always get that time in, with like a team of 30.
Like again, like whatever level, like when I was in Scotland at 20s, you got specialist skill coaches for line out, scrum, the jackal, like everything, like we'd usually do scrums with like Scotty Lawson, the ex Scotland hooker, and then we would do line outs with we would sometimes do it with him, or we would also have someone else come in and help us do it, like Stevie Laurie, the Edinburgh forwards coach. He came in a couple of times, and then you would also have for the jackal and stuff like that. Like we worked with the pro team, like the big national team sometimes. So you would have people like Kelly Brown and someone else, Jonathan Humphreys, Danny Brown, Danny Wilson, sorry, the Glasgow head coach. He was there. We done stuff with him in the line out and the jackal and all that kind of stuff. So for when I was younger, we didn't have that. When you're at the club level, so it is good to have someone there, because some of the skills nowadays, like for me, like if I was doing extra stuff, I'd need a friend or a coach to hold a pad or put pressure on me or something. So it is a good thing to have one-on-one coaching, especially from a younger age, because if you can do it with someone who you have a good relationship with, or who is the person that you're doing it with is trying to better you. So I would always advise one-on-one sort of training. It helps a lot more, and you can ask a question. You don't feel embarrassed, especially when you're younger. Not many people, you don't want to ask in front of your friends, like, what should I do this, or is this right? Plus, you can look at more specific stuff as well. Like you say, it's beneficial. There's definitely studies showing that one-on-one training is beneficial for everybody, because of like just the communication you can have with the person and how comfortable they are as well. So yeah, I wish I had more training when I was younger, one-on-one, because I probably would have been a lot better when I was younger. Like I missed out on things that I should have learned earlier maybe, but that's just part of the learning process, really.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you spent 3 years at Stirling County, just in the first 15 in there. And obviously there was just a period where Super 6 started, and the professionals kind of start to come down if they weren't playing at the weekend. Just could you give us just an insight with that conversation you had with the coaches, and just then what was next? Like, how did you deal with that? Because obviously Stirling has been part of their kind of career for a while, and just how you dealt with that.
Yeah, that was the thing. Yeah, like so after the back of the World Cup, the Junior World Cup, I got offers to go to France and also Stirling, and I made the decision because I said I enjoyed being at Stirling before the Super 6, and I was playing my good rugby there. I got into under-20s with it. I was progressing, and then the Super 6 began, and like pre-season, it was going well. I had an injury playing Newcastle because I just think my body, I only had like a month off from the World Cup, and then I was back in training, so I didn't have a lot of time off really. My body was pretty broken still, and I'd done a shoulder in against Newcastle in pre-season, and then suddenly after that, I didn't get the season began at the Super 6 like two or 3 weeks later, and the shoulder was better, but it wasn't good, and I spoke to the coaches, I was on the bench for the first game. I was like, that's fine. Didn't get on. And then the second game, I wasn't in it at all because I think we had Adam Ash, Matt Smith, and I think we had Jali is like a Fijian from Glasgow. We had 3 of them, so that was 2 back row and a second row, both but I can play. So I wasn't even in the team, and I spoke to him. I said, "Why? Like, why? I know you have to give them game time and stuff like that, but why?" Like, and he said, "Oh, you didn't take the opportunities you got given in pre-season and stuff like that, and you're not being physical enough in training and all that kind of stuff." So I said to him, "Okay." Like I said to him about in pre-season, it wasn't my fault that I got a shoulder injury, and I can't play with it. If I kept playing, it would have made it worse. I wouldn't be playing my best rugby, you know. So that was one of the conversations we had about that, and he always had that against me, the coach of Stirling, which was for me mentally was like, it's not my fault. I can't control if my body is injured. You know what I mean? So, but with the pros and stuff like that, I understand that they need game time, but also at the same time it was just like a bit of kick in the teeth for me. And plus he wasn't giving me another opportunity to show what I could do even when I was fine. So every week I was getting better in training. He was saying, "Oh, you're doing better in training," but every weekend I wasn't in the team because he wasn't going to give me another opportunity, which was my mindset. Like at the time, my girlfriend, when I came home from training or anything like that, she was like, "What's wrong?" And it was a really hard time mentally for me, like to process everything. And like I was trying everything and nothing was coming off. All I wanted to do was play rugby. And then 4 months later, 4 months I didn't play for, and then I got 7 minutes at the end of a game and I gave away a penalty, and then Heriots won the game because I gave away a penalty, which it wasn't even that bad. It wasn't even like, oh, I wasn't even offside. But for me, that was the ending point there. I said that's when I started looking for going away somewhere else, because I needed to get away and start playing rugby, because mentally I was just not in the right good headspace. And he wasn't doing anything for me. So that's when I looked to go to Darlington, and then I moved to Darlington just after Christmas. And it was the best decision I ever done, because I got new footage. I was playing at a very good level of rugby. National 1 was very physical. The people you're playing against are like ex-professionals or academy boys from down in England, all the champ clubs. So yeah, it was a successful move for me going there anyway.
And like, what's the difference have you noticed from the kind of brand of rugby, or just how rugby's done, either Scotland or England, just compared to where you're just now in France?
Well, and like seeing Scotland and England, they're both very structured, and coaches want you to do a certain way, and it's I've always been on a structured team where you've had a set move, but like it can change, but the structure is always there. There's always like a 1-3-1, whereas here they have structures, they have moves, they have all the calls and everything, but when it breaks down, they don't go back to it. They play rugby. They look up. They play the jouet, whatever they call it here. Like they look up wherever the space is and they'll go for it. And they'll just offload it. It's kind of like Fijian rugby, but French. Like you can see in the national team as well, when things go wrong for them, like if they drop a ball, they'll play rugby straight away. They won't try and just go slow it down and go back to the system. They'll always play. And that's what's like here. Like I remember the first game I played here. I was just like, people were throwing balls in like off the touchline. Like even when people were there, like it's always in that. It's always in play basically, which is what I like to play. Like I've always liked to do that. I like an offloading game. I like quick game. So yeah, that's probably the difference between here and England and Scotland. Is just it's less structured, and when it breaks down, they'll keep playing regardless.
I think there's some pros and cons to that brand and style. Like obviously the pros, I presume, are it's just really appealing, and the attack can just be really great. But do you think defensively as well that can cause issues? Like just because that unpredictability.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like here, like there's a couple more knock-ons and than previous where I've played, just because of they do try everything. But in defence, like the defences don't here. The defences after 40 minutes, they're pretty. They don't expect you to run everything still. So it's in like defensively they get very unstructured when we go unstructured in attack. It goes both ways. They'll all be all over the place. Some people will be on the floor here. People will, the lazy ones, you spot out the lazy runners, and that's how they play, and that's how you score tries when the defense is tired and the attack is want to play rugby still. So it is different, and I've got used to it a bit now. And to be honest, it's probably the best, most enjoyable rugby I play now. Even for a forward like me, I'm pretty like a loose forward in terms of like offloading and all that kind of stuff. And and you don't a couple of times you make a couple of mistakes, but apart from that, it's pretty decent. So yeah.
So it's like, so obviously you've moved to France. What's the purpose and the goal of moving to France? Because is it long term to get back in both professional rugby, or is it just to build confidence up and play a different brand, or what's the purpose of your different moves? What's the goal?
Like right now, before coming to France, the goal was to be somewhere that I was enjoying my rugby, and it was a good level, and there was a place, like a purpose for me to progress. And already being here, I feel like I've progressed a lot. Just training every day, and like the gym, like the SMC coach here, the girl, her name Pauline, she's brilliant. Like she works with me really hard. Which was one of my key things coming here. And when I came here, they said to me, like, work on this. And if like my PBs and that are going up. But the purpose for me long ago is like, I wasn't getting anything in Scotland really. Like with SRU, they're always like before and during COVID, I was maybe supposed to go in and train with the academy and stuff like that. And they said to me, "Oh, you didn't come to the academy when you got asked." And I was like, "I've never been asked before." My agent was like, "He's never been asked." And he was like, "Oh, someone was supposed to tell you 6 months ago that you were supposed to come in before the World Cup." And I was just like, "How the hell is this just coming out now?" And I'm a year down the line, and so I missed an opportunity with that. But it wasn't necessarily my fault. But the whole goal now is basically just play in France, enjoy my rugby, and then hopefully there's a lot more pro teams here in France. Like as you know, you've got you got top 14, you've got Pro D2, and then you've got the where I play in that there in the national, it's like Pro D3. It's like 14 of the best clubs from Federal 1 that have either been in Pro D2 or are at a level where they could be in Pro D2. And everybody's like some of the people that are in my team now, and the team that the pro team here, they're like 4-time champions of like top 14 Heineken Cup. There's a guy called David Smith. He played with Toulon, with Wilkinson, and then there's a Tongan who played in the World Cup for Tonga like last year, 2 years ago. Like there's a lot of experience here. So and like I'm learning off all these people. Like, there's people who played Pro 14 as well. Like there's just a lot of experienced people here, and I'm learning off them, and it's a good way for me to build up. And like the long-term goal is I want to stay in France. Like I already know that now. It's just about from now until January, March time is playing as much rugby as I can, and just see what happens really. And yeah, that's my long-term goal is to stay here and play, and then maybe go back eventually if they want me eventually. But that's just a waiting game really for that.
Have you ever considered coaching, or are you just or are you just more just playing?
No. Like I like see when I came to Narbonne, the Esport side. Probably I'm like one of the oldest people in the Esport. I think you're only allowed like three people over the age of 20 or something like that. So there's a couple of us, and I feel like sometimes like a coach in terms of giving people some tips. Like one of the boys I live with, for example, he plays for Holland under 20s in his second row as well. And he asks me questions. I help him, give him some tips, and he also gives me feedback. Like I like people who give me feedback. So yeah, like and even just in general, like the team in general, and when we do video analysis and stuff like that, I'll put my point across and what I can see. And yeah, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind being like a forwards coach or just a specialist on line outs and maul and stuff like that. Like love to do that eventually. So it's just about, but I want to focus on my career first, and then I'll maybe think about that longer term.
Yeah, definitely. What's just off the cuff? What's you feel is your strongest part of your game of rugby, and what's also maybe your weakest?
Part of that. I don't know. Recently, it's weird. Recently I've become since I've been here, I've become more a second row in terms of like my line outs and my scrum and my ball carrying's been a lot better. And my defence is a lot better than before. That used to be one of my weakest points. Probably is the tackle and tackle and jackal sort of type stuff. And since I've been here, it's improved a lot. I've just become a lot more physical and being a bit more ruthless than previous. So my weakness now is it's probably to do with because all the start-stop with the COVID. It's just about decision making. It's not as good as it used to be, and it's because I'm not playing as much. But like I've had 3 games now on the trot, and I'm making every week. I've made a lot better decisions, and I can you can just see it. It's just because of COVID, I think. But there's obviously things I can get better at everything. Still, I have strengths, but the strengths can always get better. So, yeah.
Nice one. Right, thanks. Thanks for joining us. And when you're planning on coming back to Scotland, or is that you in France now for good?
This is the thing.
You coming back for Christmas?
You never know. My mum and dad, and everybody said that to me as well. Like, are you ever going to come back? I know you're enjoying it because you don't call us that much. But no, I don't know. With quarantine and stuff, that's making it very difficult. But I'll hopefully be back at some point. Maybe at Christmas, and if not, it'll be summer probably next year because my contract finishes in June or May, I think. So I'll be coming home for a bit and then either come back to France or wherever I'm going to go next. I don't know. It's just a waiting game really now. Good
stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, and
all good. I'm happy to do it.
Catch you soon. Cheers.